All right, so Sohee, Suhan, um, employees, team members of Sohee Suhan. I don't know if you can read this perfectly clearly, but as Dad was doing his fourth or fifth review of Top Wiki's business plan, I got to page 32 where we talk about um, basically, hey, let's settle on the first 2 or 3 pages. So there's this idea that the iPhone from Apple Computer basically beat all the other phones like the BlackBerry and other things because it was so simple. There was one home button. Basically, even like a baby could press the one button, the phone turned on, and it was super intuitive. And the other phones, a child or a baby could not operate them. So the iPhone came out, was super simple, like, hey, even a 4-year-old can operate this. And the other phones might as well have come with a giant instruction manual. So the transaction cost and the opportunity cost of the other products were totally off the charts. And Steve Jobs came along and said, why don't we just reduce the transaction cost and the opportunity cost to one? That way anybody in the world can use it. And the same with Google. When they first did their testing on people using their search engine, people had been primed by Yahoo's search engine, which had ads and things flashing and arrows pointing this way and that way, and the transaction cost of using Yahoo was off the charts. It just sucked the cognitive currency out of the users, and then when things suck your cognitive currency, they can leave you feeling depressed and frustrated. So Google basically made an ultra simple search engine. So I was thinking about how do we balance eventually trying to teach people something in a very shared way, but starting with I think 85% of Americans access the internet on their smartphone. And if I'm not mistaken, it's 97% of people outside of America access the internet on their smartphone. In Africa, people have the most cell phones and the most time. And ultimately, the poorest countries are really at this moment the people who will use TopWiki the most for multiple reasons. And plus, they have the most time, they have the longest attention spans. So when they get there, they'll be like an E, and then they tap it or click it on their smartphone, and then a green ring populates around it, and then and again, try to keep this video under 5 minutes. Education is so political, it's not even funny. So we need to bias this on what's the first symbol we want to teach people. In my opinion, my bias, I could be wrong, I could be confused. All of this may be one big confabulation for all I know, but for the sake of argument and potentially building the most successful company of all time that's more ubiquitous and transportable than software on hardware, which the first trillionaire company will need to come up with something even slightly more ubiquitous than software, how Bill Gates became the richest man in the world. And the only thing that's more ubiquitous is something a little bit more abstract. Education, the software that runs in our minds, that's interfaced with the actual software itself as it relates to electrons, photons, and things like that. So a lot of times Dad reverse engineers things. So concepts have definitions. Change the definition, change the concept. I sort of know where this is sort of heading with the idea in mind that it's built to evolve and adapt. We don't want to create a holy book that, this is the word of God, it can never change. And we don't really want to create a U.S. Constitution either, where it's you can amend it, but then you amend it 18 times, and then it basically becomes a functional holy book. It can never be amended again. We want to create something that can truly evolve. So it has to be respectful. So it's 90%-ish political. But that 10% that it actually has to do with education, that 10% can be better than any educational product ever created, ever. That's the goal.